All righty, why don't we come in and put everything together, and let's start our session. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 35th Annual CALLERLAB Convention. Today is March the 18th, and it isn't 19, it's actually 2008. And the name of this session is Wind in Your Face. It was a little interesting originally as far as Wade was concerned. The two panelists, by the way, my name is Mike Seastrom. This is Wade Driver, and we're glad to be here and glad you're here this afternoon. The original panelists, I believe, were Tony and Wade, Tony Oxendine. Was it Jerry Junk? It's kind of moved along. Anyway.
Everybody backed out on me.
So I want to apologize that we don't have a handout. I was unaware that I was doing this session until I got here and saw my name on the program. But there is a lot of information. Fortunately, I brought some of my resources here because I was doing the History Heritage session, and so I do have some resources about smoothness and square dancing and wind in your face type of ideas and choreography. And Wade and I both have a real passionate opinion about keeping the dancers moving, keeping the wind in their face, and making the experience of their dance not only enjoyable but providing the variety in that movement and that experience, because it gives the dancers more of a feeling that they're just not running through the same patterns, that you can be different but without being difficult. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about smoothness in choreography, and primarily because smoothness implies, well, I think in order to put the wind in your face, you can have wind in your face, but it makes it a lot more fun when you can be smooth and have wind in your face. And we have used that. I think when I first heard that term used, we were talking in CALLERLAB about providing something for new dancers that give them the feel of movement, because that feel of movement to music is nothing more joyous, I think, in the world than somebody moving to music. It's occurred in mankind since really the beginning of mankind, when they could just beat on drums or rocks or something and provide some kind of rhythm and move to that rhythm. We're fortunate enough to have a tremendous amount of music, and we've evolved a long way from that point. But when you're looking at factors in smoothness, you're looking at the type of choreography, first of all, that you're providing for the dancers. You're also looking at the dancers themselves. Are they walking along? Are they just getting from one place to the other? Or are they actually gliding through their movements? Most of you know, and probably the first night of class, I would imagine most of you that teach square dancing teach the difference to your dancers between walking and gliding. Chuck, can I borrow your mic a little bit? By the way, Chuck is going to be carrying this microphone around so that if anybody or any one of you would like to say something, just raise your hand. Chuck will get the mic to you, say your name, where you're from, and speak, okay? I'm sure most of you at the first night of class talk to your dancers, just get out on the floor and say, when you're walking down the street, your heel hits the floor first. Every time you're walking along, strolling along, but the difference between a dance step is that the heel doesn't touch first. It's actually the ball of the foot, and then the heel touches. So there's a forward lean to your movement in here. It makes it a lot smoother, and if you can teach your dancers that, and they're moving through their choreography on the balls of their feet and then on their heel first, their posture's not only up a little bit more, but in essence, they've got kind of a forward tilt to their body rather than just kind of leaning back and strolling through their movements or their dancing. And you're going to find that your dancers, you can appeal to them that they're going to feel a lot less tired at the end of the evening if they've got a more forward lean to their dance step. Wade, anything more to add to that? No? Okay. All right. Keep rolling. And I think the other thing is teach them early on to breathe. I mean, I know that sounds really stupid, but when they're not moving or they're doing a right and left grab, there's some great movements to take a deep breath. The other thing in our choreography, I think, that makes things smooth, makes dancers more successful, and adds to their enjoyment is eye contact. And to me, how many danced at the contra session last night? You probably realize that there's a whole other ballgame of eye contact in contra dancing. And it's amazing how that adds to square dancing. And anytime you're a square dancer, if you can make eye contact with others that are in your square, particularly if you're an in-facer and you have to execute a movement with an in-facing dancer, if you make that eye contact and that dancer's looking at you, you know you're right there. It doesn't interrupt the smoothness and the flow. If there's a hiccup or there's a stop or someone's not coming your way and you can get their attention just a little bit, it makes such a difference with eye contact. So make sure that you are mentioning that with your new dancer classes or any time out where you're dancing with somebody. If you're doing a styling session or smoothing session, again, that's going to not only put the wind in their face, or not only be smooth, but it's going to put the wind in their face. The last thing that really affects smoothness and affects putting the wind in the face is your timing and your delivery. Because when you anticipate that there's going to be a call that's going to maybe require them to think a little bit, have a little bit longer reaction time, then to help them out ahead of time with a pre-cue or just a word ahead of time makes a huge difference, makes an enormous difference. If you have the girls in the center of the set, say you have the heads pass through and separate, go around one, make a line of 4. We got a boy, boy, girl, girl line. We pass through, we do a wheel and deal, and we put the girls in the middle, and the girls square through 3. Now you can say, boys, stick out your left hand. Here she comes. If the guys are there waiting for her, instead of you just say, girls square through 3, courtesy turn. If the guys got an anticipation of they're coming right out there, there's her left hand and his left hand, boom, you can just make that movement go real smooth. So the way you deliver the call or the way you even pre-cue a call is going to make an enormous difference in the smoothness. Most of you realize that there's a type of timing in our command time. When we say a particular call, it takes so many beats to say that call, whether it's pass through for 2 beats or pass to the center, which might make 3 beats. There's different timing or number of beats it takes to say the call, and that's our command time. The reaction time, of course, is the time we give the dancers to process that and actually go into that movement and begin that movement. That particular time, for most dancers, is 1 or 2 beats. But newer dancers, most of us have to give a little bit more time for the reaction time so those dancers can kick in and may have to call a little bit ahead of time that movement which we want the dancer to do, knowing that we are going to give them a little bit more time to process that information. And then there's, of course, the time or the execution time of the call itself. We want to allow them enough time to execute it, but we want to deliver the next command in enough time before they finish their execution time of the particular call they're working on right now, so that they can be ready and have one call move right into the next. If we wait and we watch the floor to where we see where they're going to be, oh yeah, they're going to be in a wave. What kind of call from a wave? And then you finally get that call out. They're done and they're waiting on you. And then there's that stop and that start and that stop and that start that makes such a huge difference in the smoothness and keeping the wind in their face and moving right along. I'm going to turn this over to Wade and let you go, guy.
I thought you'd talk longer than that. Shoot. No, this is a subject I can see everybody fine. This is a subject that's very close to my heart. And in the last 6 months, and I'm not going to bore you with a lot of things, but the last 6 to 9 months, I've gotten back into living and back into square dance calling and back into dancing. And my wife and I both enjoy dancing, so I've done as much visiting as I could because I wanted to see what was going on out there, okay? And some of it's good, some of it's okay, some of it's okay? And the part primarily is what keeps dancers from dancing. Y'all ever in the military? Did you love close order drill? You liked it? Oh, I ain't one of them. I didn't. You know, if I want to start, I want to go till I stop. And when I get to stop, I want to be where I'm going to finish up. I don't want to start and stop and start and stop and start and stop. You ever been in downtown cities? You go and they say no left turn, no left turn, no left turn. So everything is out of whack. We got 2 things that I've seen deficiency on, which can be fixed by practice, and that is timing and flow. Now, we have a timing chart, but you have to use discretion and adjust that timing of your own personal timing, depending on whether your dancers are 16, 26, 46, or 86. All right? And so again, by eye contact. They may not be looking at you, but you better darn well be looking at them. All right? If you're calling, here's my laptop. I'm going to say, here's my choreography. Let me just read this. I've seen guys that so attuned to this, they could walk off floor. He'd never do it. All right? You need to see where they are, okay? And the whole idea of wind in your face. You want to see a happy puppy? Stick his head out the window while you're driving down the road, let him feel the wind in his face. That's all he wants to do. Just make me happy. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? I'm sure all of you at one time or another when you call to dance, and you get complimented at the end of the dance. Some compliments are better than others, okay? But to me, if somebody comes up to me at the end of the dance and say, you know what, we really appreciate all the dancers danced all night. They won all night. That just tickles the cockles of my heart, all right? I don't want to come and say, God, your choreography was killer. I don't really care. Whether it was good, bad, and different, as long as they had a good time and they won all night long. And that's the whole idea of this Wind in Your Face is let the people dance. Now, you can't unless you've worked on your timing and your flow and allowed them to dance, right? And sometimes even your timing can be good, but if you're doing movements that everybody's going in a counterclockwise direction, all of a sudden you went, send them that way, and they weren't ready, that's going to stop that floor. Even though you might keep your mouth going, they're going to grind to a halt because you reversed where they wanted to go. I remember I asked Flip years ago, I said, how do you decide what are you going to call next? He said, the dancers tell you. If they lean to the right, I call them to the right. If they lean to the left, I call them left. I don't care. You remember that? That was 30-something years ago you told me that. And I've never forgotten that, because what difference does it make? You know, don't call your dance, call theirs. Now, but you can't do that without practicing. And also in the last few years, we've gotten to this, I've got to call tough. I've got to call tough. Why? It's an interesting thing. How many guys think if you call a really good hash break and it's really good and all this, and the dancers can't do it, do you think they're going to think you're a good caller? Probably not. You do, but they don't, okay? And I found that I was as guilty of more than most people, thinking I'm boring them. I wasn't boring them. I was boring myself. And if I'm getting paid, boredom comes with the job, all right, as long as they win. Now, and we can give you examples, which we're going to do, of calling and just let them flow. But I'll say this, I don't care what figure it is, anything from a pass-through to a flip the upside-down widget, I don't care what it is, if you don't know where it starts, how it's done, and where it ends before you open your mouth, you lose. That's just a fact of life. You've got to know all of that. You know, and if a figure starts in an ocean wave, all right, you need to know, one, where it starts, how are you going to help them? Because you can't help them if you don't know how to do it. So you've got to help them as you go through this, and then you've got to know where it finishes up. Otherwise, you've got to let them stop before you call the next move. Now, some more than others, I guess, and I'm one of them. You know, CALLERLAB said years ago, our standard ocean wave position is this, right? Reason for that. Now, I remember I learned with forearms over in Georgia, and I thought, yeah, you'll get me to dance with my hands stuck up like this. But look at the choreography we have, okay? And everything is connected in ocean waves. When I started, ocean waves didn't even exist, but they do. Now, you have them drop their hands down to here. When I see a floor dancing and the hands are down here, which I always thought that was to pat people on the backside with, but if the hands are way down here at the bottom, how are you going to have good timing? You can't see their hands, all right? So if they do a square through, well, wait till they get done, see where they're there, because then you've got to go by the body, and the hands precede the body, and you've got to see that hands. So I don't care whether it's a handshake or up here, but somewhere I've got to see the hands, all right? And anybody know what a chicken plucker is? How many think that's only used for brand new dancers? Because it's used for everybody. All right. If you get a floor, last Saturday night we had a floor in Louisiana at the State Festival, and I know they had some new dancers and they had some advanced dancers and plus dancers. I don't care. I said, what's the level of the dance? He said, call your dance. We didn't give it a level. It's a square dance. My favorite place. And I called some basic. I called some C1. I called everything in the middle. I just didn't give it a name. But the main thing you do is you start the dance and they don't stop until you promenade home. Then you start again and you go to come home. Now, and it's so easy in that to think, golly, I've called the same thing. But I promise you, if you get them to say head square through 4 and right and left through and veer left, a couple circulate and chain down the line, start through, pass through, trade by an element left and right and left grand, and come back and do it again with the sides, they're not going to remember that as long as they keep winning. We think they will and say, oh, I can't call the same thing again. And by the third tip, you think, gosh, I've called the whole mainstream list. I've got to get cute now. And you're going to cute yourself right out of the dance. All right? Don't get cute. Just call the dance and let them win all the time. And that, to me, that's my concept of winning in your face. Now, to vary it, you've got music. You've got all sorts of music. You've got everything from, well, just some, when we were playing a while ago, from this thing, I think it's a round dance, I think, but whatever. You've got some strange stuff, but this is a great thing if you use it. Now, there are places where this music stops and they do some funny little noises and things like that. If you're not in tune with what you're calling and you don't know where you are, you can't use it. But if you are, you can. Now, what? in this minute, but I'm going to do it first, and we're going to put a set together and show you how to use it. Head square through, and we get mid forward, and a right or left through. Veer to the left and a couple circulate, chain down the line. You start through, pass through, trade by. Allemande left and a right or left grand. And but you got to know it before you do it. Now, I see so many guys that are up there using music and think, well, I don't know when that comes up. Well, put it on and listen to it. You know, gee, when it's Christmas, you're getting paid for it, put it on and listen to it. But the hardest thing to do is get a caller to listen to a piece of music and keep his mouth shut. We ain't big on that. We don't want to do that.
We put it on and we start.
And how do you put it on and we go, I'm going to sing with it. I'm going to make noise. How do you know what it does? Okay? And it's amazing to me. Now, there's all sorts of things, you know, and we've got so much good country music and we've got so much, alternative music. Like that last night was a rock instrumental from 1970 or something. I don't know what it's from.
But it's also currently around dance.
And that's
right
currently
now, right?
around dance.
Right.
And I heard them that and I thought, oh, that's cool, you know, and so you can research it and find a way to get it. Now,
so take the beginning of that piece of music and count from the very start. How many beats does it take me to get into that pause, and what can I do to fill in those beats?
And they do several. Now, for example, you've got, and it's spaced fairly evenly. All right, now, 7, 8, should be 32, but I'm not sure. No, it's 64, I guess. I don't remember. But you can feel it. It's coming to it. Don't. Then we're going to go 48 more. We're going to do it again. Now, if you can get into the swing of that thing, and everybody's moving along, and if you can do an Allemande left and a right and left grand, and say the word grand right when that break comes, the dancers go, whoop. And that's what you want. You want them, that's all. It's not a whole lot you can do. Boom. Pretty soon you can recognize it coming because he's building up to it. You can't miss it. You know, so if you're sitting there talking away and they pass through it and trade by and touch a quarter and doodly squat, I don't care what they're doing, moving around. But it gives you a good 4 to 8 bar lead in, letting you know where it's coming. You know, get a right or left through and turn now, honey. You pass through, trade by, Allemande left and a right or left grand. Oh, yeah. And off you go. Now, it's got a little place where it does a whole thing like this. You can do a hash break. Let me back up that just a skosh.
The other thing is we're listening to this, I want you to listen to the fact that it's very well phrased. You come down that one beat, you get your dancers to start that figure.
Now, what if you start right here? Well, head square through in the middle and get 4 hands and around you go and the right or left through when you meet that pair. Turn her and you veer to the left and a couple circulate, move up and the ladies trade. Bend your line, star through and a right or left through. Hey, now you square her through, 3/4 round to go. You trade by, slide through, roll the face, pass through. Do you turn back, Allemande left and a right or left grand go. That's all. But you can't do it if you hadn't listened to it, all right, and know what's going to go on. Now, I always, and I'm used to be this bad. We practice singing calls. We got to know how to do singing calls. While we were during our yuppie phase, and everybody wanted to get better, and everybody wants to dance C9 or whatever, all right, and we were workshopping, and everybody had to learn something. We had very simple music, all right, but nowadays people say, just dance me. Just dance me, make me have a good time. Pattern music has become very, very, very important, okay? And so if you really work on your timing and your flow, keeping it simple and vary your music, it's astounding the reaction you can get from a floor. All right?
Hey, let's put a square together, okay? If we can get some dance. Tom, do you want to come over to Chuck? Chuck's going to bring a mic right to you, so don't go yet. Don't go yet. Wait, bring over the microphone over there so we can get you on the microphone, because that makes a huge difference when. What? Well, the name
called Last Night.
Called Last Night,
and it was originally recorded by Chris Anderson and DJ Robbie in 1970 or something or other.
Yeah, it is a round dance out right now too, I believe. All right, we need.
I have no idea. It would. I belong to an outfit called LimeWire, and I signed up for it, and I got a lifetime membership, and I thought it said $40. It said 40 pounds, so it cost me more than I thought it was going to. But it's a shareware thing, and you go and you search, and as long as you've got Last Night with that title, but you can go on Google, and it's Last Night with the artist is Chris Anderson, then it'll pop up.
All right. Good, good. The other thing about that piece of music is again, I was telling you that there's just a definite 8-count phrasing that if you can give the dancers the one beat, it makes it a lot more enjoyable for the dancers. It's just one more thing that adds to their fun. Get the bass off. Yeah, just a little bit. Other way. Great. Okay. All right. Put them on there, Wade. I'm not really familiar with this music, but one thing I do recognize in it. All right, we'll bow to the partner and the corner two. 4 ladies chain straight across, let's go. You chain right back home and dead. Join hands, circle to the left, go round the ring. They're starting that 1 count. Left down, man, come on back to right and left, grand right and left, go round. Gonna meet a little girl and then everybody say, whoa. Heads forward, up to the middle and back. Square through and they get 4 hands. You roll them round the ring. They come to the right or left through that outside 2 and turn them now for your left. Couples circulate. Chain down the line. Turn a little girl. Move it up to the middle and back. 8 past the ocean there and all 8 circulate 1 time. Swing through. Girls circulate while the boys trade in a right or left, grand, right and a left, go round. Hand over hand, you promenade, take a little walk, you've got it made. You're just keeping them moving, they're telling you what they want. 4 ladies chain straight across, turn a little girl like you're the boss, heads roll away. Side couples up to the middle and you come on back, square through with the yak. All the way around the ring and then swing through you do. Boy, run right, we're dancing lines up to the middle and back. Get her right left through and turn them there. 8 pass through and bend it, move it. 8 to the middle and back. Now pass through, gonna wheel and deal. You do a zoom, square through. 3/4 round, corner man, left down man. Come on, to right left, grand right, it'll down. Hand over hand, you promenade. Cute little walk back home, you do now. Back home and you keep them moving. And you're delivering that command. Go ahead, we'll cut them. Give these guys a nice round of applause. Very nice. Now, don't leave yet.
Wait, done yet.
All right.
Let's begin to fight, Charlie.
One of the things I heard last night that just makes the hair on the back of my head stand up. If the head square through, 4 hands around, go ahead, head square through, 4 hands around. Star through. Just kills me to see that. When we've got slide through.
And just for your information, single circle to a wave is just as bad.
Yeah. And you hear it all the time. But once again, you want to get both hands up there. A big deal in this is this hand availability. Is that hand in the right place? One of the movements we use a lot, particularly with our new dancers, is a star through and a right and left through. Well, we've got the man using his right hand 2 times in a row, but is that hand available? Watch it. Star through. Do a right and a left through. See, when they finish the star through and the gentleman brings his hand down, he's right in the position to do a right and a left through. I like slide through, a right and left through better, but the bottom line is that hand is available even though you're using that hand twice, okay? Touch a quarter. When scoot back first came out, we said this movement will never fly. You're using the same hand 3 times in a row. The dancers will hate this. They don't like to use 3. Scoot back, starting with a right hand, turn them with a right hand, in them with a right hand. Scoot back again. Walk and dodge. Chase right. Are we just running them around in a circle? God, I hate this when you get a box of 4 dancers. And it is safe choreography. I mean, you can really keep track of your floor, really true. But if you're dancing them around in a box of 4, single hinge, girls trade, swing through, boys run right, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. I'm not going to let you dance on the other side. Touch a quarter. Split circulate. Boys run. Are they just turning to their right the whole darn time? You're just winding them up this clockwise turn that everybody makes in there. How about a reverse the flutter wheel? Reverse your flutter wheel, boys. Get in there. Sweep a quarter. Veer right. Now they're moving the other way now. Just, you realize that, God, I'm having them run around on a corner.
But notice that transition was smooth. He didn't come back this way. You make that smooth. When you may go from left to right, make sure it's a round one so it's a nice smooth transition.
So be aware, particularly am I dancing them in a box of four with the same four dancers the whole darn time? That puts the wind in their face, but it's like really, it's just, you're winding them up. It's not very, go ahead. Wait.
I was going to say, never mind. It's a summer sandstorm.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's a hurricane. Yeah, it is very claustrophobic because the dancer, circulate them, couples circulate, move them, bend the line, flutter wheel. Boys in, reverse your flutter, cue them ahead of time. Let the guy step in, cue them ahead. The bottom line is if you're going to do a change of direction, something that might be a little bit different. Pass the ocean. Swing through. Boys trade. I'm going to say boys trade ahead of time, knowing that they may want to just do a boys run, particularly if I've called boys swing through and boys run for 3 times in a row. If I'm going to introduce a trade, I want to give them enough heads up time on that they'll react to it without having to go and react and hear it and process it and then end up too far into the next movement. All right. Spin the top. Slide through. Pass through. Trade by. Slide through. Star through. Veer to the left. Hate that. But we call it that. We hear it out there. That star through and veer to the left. There's no just you can do a right and left through, then veer to the left. All right. But
veer to what's it? Call veer right, and then the guy say, "But that doesn't feel good." They don't care if it feels bad for the girls, but if he calls veer right, it feels bad for me. That don't count.
That's right. That's right. Ferris wheel. Something that doesn't seem that it would work, but it does because of the body position. Square through 3 in the middle. When you meet the outside 2, I want you to do-sa-do all the way around. Look her in the eye. Pass through. Trade by. Touch 1 quarter. Split circulate. Boy run. Pass through. Wheel and deal. Center 4 square through 3. Meet the outside pair and do-sa-do all the way around. Look her in the eye. Touch a quarter. So you can do a square through 3 to a do-sa-do the outside 2 because their body is right there. It's a smooth flow. It's available. My feeling is call it ahead of time. Make sure when they meet the outside 2, they're involved in the center. The outsides are expecting it. The centers are expecting it. Go ahead. Swing through. Boy run. Ferris wheel. Or actually, I'm sorry. Centers trade. Let's do the centers trade. And the boys run. Okay, there we go. Pass through, wheel and deal.
Different kind of wind.
There we go. All right. Square through 3. But when you meet them, split the outside 2, all right? I want to give them enough time, round 1 mega line. I want to give them enough time coming out of that square through where the outside dancers are anticipating the call that's coming. And the centers know that, hey, when we're done with that square through 3, we're going together to split that outside couple. So if you pre-cue them and you give them enough time to get there, it makes a big, big difference. Wade, you want to play with them a little bit?
Yeah, well, it can not only, it doesn't have to be the Willie upbeat type of thing. You can do, I have no idea where home was. Past the ocean, I was not paying any attention.
I'll get them.
Thank you.
Boy run. All the men circulate. Half circulate, bend in. I think we're there. Right? Okay.
All right. Now, it does not have to be the hardcore upbeat pattern. It can be just a smoothie pattern. You can have just as much emphasis. For example, now here's one that just is really low key, but you can just dance. Now, we all know one of the hardest things to do, particularly with new dancers, is keep winning their face because they're self-conscious, they're afraid, they're scared. So it doubles the necessity for ability on the caller's part because it's really, really easy to call hard. It's really, really hard to call easy. And you've got to call easy enough. They must win. It is vital. And so often we've taken our new dancers and they're just, well, you ought to know that. Why? If the dummy on the mic can't tell it to you, then they shouldn't ought to know it. All right. So make sure you call easy enough. And I love this thing. And there's little things that you do with beginners. And if you have to adjust your timing, so be it. If this change has got to be made, make it behind the microphone, not out on the floor, and you adjust so they win. All right? Head square through 4, and you just watch them. And a do, see, do. Then you make your way, swing through, boy trade, boy run, bend the line, right or left through. Now, what I'm doing is I'm actually pre-calling it a little bit sooner than I would have for really the good dancers, which you just got to know, because I want to give them a little more think time. Then I would give them a little more, I'm going to stretch the timing out again. So with these guys, you may be waiting a little bit, but the whole point is if you watch your dancers. So anyway, now get a right or left through. Past the ocean, all age circulate, girls trade, recycle. Veer to the left and a couple circulate. You chain down the line, just keep them going. You square through to 3. Find a corner lady. Left alley man, the corner to come back home and square your sets. Now, there's little things if you listen. I don't got to remember where it is. Hey,
can I point some out to here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just the other thing is watch the dancer's feet. With a lot of us using iPods and particularly different sources of music that we can't slow down, every once in a while you got something recorded just a little bit fast. And in the last year or so, I can say that I've called with other callers where it was a little bit uncomfortable watching the dancers' feet because they're moving along, really, they're clipping right along, and it's either a shuffle step or it's a 4/4 timing that's just a little bit too fast for them, and they're not comfortable. You can see they're not comfortable as they dance. You can see that some of the dancers are actually walking and skipping steps because it's too fast to shuffle along like this. So watch the dancers' feet and watch the look on their face and watch the wrinkles on their forehead as they're trying to, they'll tell you ahead of time.
Watch hand gestures they give.
If they're a little bit in distressed. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing is for some of us who have been standing in front of a speaker for 45 years and are a little deaf, sometimes it's hard to, you get too loud. I get too loud occasionally. And so make sure that when you watch those dancers out there that have hearing aids, when they're all going up like this, to adjust as necessary, then you crank it down a little bit.
I used to blame all the changes on the age of the dancers until I became one of them. I decided it's not always the age. But seriously, we always said, well, we dance slower. It's because the dancers are older. Not necessarily. If you listen to today's music, country, western music, all kind of music, tempos are slower than they used to be, just because of the styles of the songs and so on. Now, in 1974, we danced primarily singing calls at 132, patter 130, 131. Now we're doing patter about 124 to 125 and singing calls at 126 to 128. And I don't think it has a thing to do with age. I think it has to do with complexity of choreography. And I think it has to do with the current modern music that we have today. Most of this hard bottom-end music that we've got is, or for example, last night I never had to change a tempo. That's the way it was recorded. It was right out that way. Some of the stuff, and we go for all sorts of stuff, but the new techno music, for example, like this, this, it's recorded at that tempo. Now, this is from the Phantom of the Opera. All right, but that's the tempo they use. All right, and that's what they like to do. So you have to stay up to what's going on current events. All right, and again, and this takes wind in your face to a whole new example. And I'm only going to do it halfway. But just if you've got beginners, okay, just let me find me. Where is that thing? They call it. It has different names. I call it the kid song. Some will call it hamster dance or whatever. I don't know. But this thing for beginners, and what I started doing, and you might want to consider, the last tip of the night, I didn't do it third week beginners. I do a hash tip with beginners. And wherever they're at, all right, third tip, maybe just 4 lays chain them back, and circle left, and Allemande left, and Allemande right, and go back and swing a corner, whatever. Whatever level that, I do a hash tip. And I did this. They just love this little old song. And just keep and make them dance. And I've found that I've been more successful the last 2 years with them being able to keep tempo at the end of the classes than I ever was before. And I think it's because of that little hash tip we do at the end of one. I said, now guys, if you mess up, I don't care. Just hang in there. Go somewhere. Smile. Whatever. But I want to get you used to speed. And I did this I had to do Pat Barber called me and he said, you got to go cover my dance for me. He said, they dance from 7 to 9. It's plus. I said, okay. Well, no, he said they danced 7:30 to 9. I got there. Well, they danced 7 to 9:30. It was beginners. So I walk in and I go, okay, we'll adjust that program. And so, and the first hour and a half was beginners and it went to whatever. But anyway, so I was working with someone else's beginners and I'm thinking, God, I really want these guys to win. They're terrified because they've never heard me before. And they're just like, huh. So tip 1, we did this. And it was so fun. Just hanging there. Of course, this is going to bore you to death, but this is fun, all right? But just, not necessarily this, but something like this. I said, now guys, you gotta trust me and just stay with me.
Here we go.
Head square through 4. Step to a wave, swing through. Now girls, trade to the other end of your wave. Boy, trade in the middle. Or run around a girl. Couples trade in your same line. Don't leave that line. Couples circulate one time. Girl, trade in the middle. Bend the line. Start through. Pass through, trade by. Well, in this case, I did a dive through, pass through, or whatever. Step to a wave, swing through. Girls trade the other end of your wave. Now, you know when they start, they're going to go over yonder or go over yonder, whatever. But you're doing this 4 times. And by the time we get to 4th one, they got this puppy down. They got it memorized and they're off to the races, okay? Now, boys trade. Boy run. Girl trade. Stay with me. Don't get behind. Bend the line. Start through. Dive through. Pass through. Step to a wave. Trust me. Swing through. Girls trade to the other end of your wave. Stay on your side, girls. Boys trade in the middle. Boys run around the girls. Couples trade in your same line. Don't leave there. Couples circulate. Now you can go across. Girls trade in the middle. Bend the line. Start through. Stay with me. Dive through. Pass through. Step to a wave. Stay with me. Swing through. Girls trade to the other end. Boys trade in the middle. Stay with me. Boys run around the girls. Girls trade in the middle. There you go. Bend the line. Start through. Dive through. Pass through. You made it. Elevator left that corner. I promise you, beginners go nuts when you get them. They ain't done nothing but chicken blockers over yonder and over here and over yonder, but they just think they've conquered the moon, man, And that's the kind of, yes, ma'am.
I hope if you've got a group of people that's somewhat older, that you pay attention to watching their face, because that made me very dizzy. And I was losing my spatiality, I think is the word you use.
You have to watch them. And as you go through there, you watch to see. And I was noticing you, all right? And you have to watch the floor, because if that trading or spinning around, if it's bothering anybody, you get halfway through and quit. Now, I use that as a demo, but that will happen. That's a very good point, because you're just going round and around a little circle.
Yeah.
Now, what I found with most new dancers.
Particularly the ladies in the middle with the
and
trade.
I found with most new dancers, if you just take it, and I call that faster than I would have. If you got beginners, it's back down slower. But the trick is to get them to win. And they feel like I've really accomplished something. But you do have to watch your floor. And I watched that one little place, but you cut up. So I just kept going. But yeah, I didn't miss it. All right. And it can be dizzy. So you have to keep your eye. But not necessarily that, but anything like that gives them the idea of, golly, I did that. And that's what you want. You want the new dancer to say, I did that. I won. Okay. And it works for me.
There's sometimes, too, that you're going to find that you introduce a piece of choreography, and you know that the dancers are going to have problems if you vary it. Normally, when you say heads lead right, they'll be circling to a line before you can say the next command. But if you want them to do something else, there may come a time where you have to sacrifice a little bit of smoothness for the success rate. And you can have them heads lead right and smile. So, bam, I've got their attention. Do a right and left through. Veer to the left. I think we were talking about couples circulate. Now the couples trade. Now the couples circulate. Now the couples trade. So you that's an exaggerated form of this overflow thing we're talking about. But again, here we are. That's something that we really have to take into consideration. The other thing is that watch your floor, bend the line, pass the ocean. Girls trade, recycle. That whole thing with the pass the ocean, girls trade, recycle, particularly if the dancers are are using their hands on that recycle, because really recycle is a no hands call. But the majority of dancers out there dance it, and I've even heard callers still say, pull them on around, recycle and pull them on around. Boy, that's, years ago, I think we got the hugest verbal lashing from Lee Cotman when he was at the CALLERLAB convention. I mean, he was just all over us about the way we were teaching recycle. When it first came in, particularly the West Coast callers, because it started out on the East Coast, and by the time it got here to the West Coast, step to a wave, I think we were teaching the inside dancers, take your left hand and reach across, and center dancers turn around and wheel and deal. And he said, what? What? I mean,
you thought he'd wrote that thing.
It was a tirade. And I think still there's a lot of us that teach recycle that way. That might be good the first time around, but the bottom line is this is a no hands call. Step to a wave. Remember that the ends are going to cross fold, right? So ends cross fold. Just centers don't move a muscle. Don't move a muscle. Centers don't move. All right. Just the ends cross fold. Okay. Good. All right. Good. Ends uncross fold. All right. Now, ends know exactly where you're going. Now, I want the center dancers to fold. So fold behind that end dancer. And as the end dancer cross folds, the center's going to follow them and face in, right? So ends cross fold, follow, face in. So at least in the mainstream program, we don't necessarily teach this as a 3-part call. But the bottom line is teach them without hands. Same thing with linear cycle. Step to a wave. I was chairman of the Plus Committee when this went from a quarterly selection to a Plus call, and the hate mail we got. And I think, John, you were chairman at that time. I think you just forwarded it right on to me. And it was, I am up answering this mail, and it was primarily from women. The guys just drag us through this call. This is a no-hands call. Single hinge. That's the most important part of the call. The outfacers fold. From here, you lead dancers may never, ever, ever touch the dancer behind you. But trailing dancers, you can touch the lead dancer all you like. But remember, turn around is fair play. Double pass all the way through and peel to the right. All right?
Jump in here a minute. Now, what's so funny is that they came and they said, well, that's a recycle sweep a quarter. Yeah, and if you did recycle properly, you wouldn't have a problem with it to begin with.
That's exactly right. You wouldn't be dragging that trailing dancer through the call. Do a right and a left through. Girls lead Dixie style to an ocean wave. Now the boys trade. Do a linear cycle. Hinge, outfacer, fold, double, and peel. All right? So you can, the turnaround's fair play, but the bottom line is teach this, and you get a chance to workshop that or work this with your dancers. Teach them that it's a no-hands call. It'll smooth out their dancing. It'll put the wind in their face. It'll add some choreography that you can do. And the bottom line is that you're helping the dancers to increase their enjoyment. If for somewhere along the line they've been misled on these particular calls, do a right and left through. Put the girls in the lead. Hang on now. Double pass all the way through. Face in. All right. Pass through. The ends cross fold. Touch 1/4. Centers trade. Centers run. Do a Ferris wheel. Keep her on this side. All right. There are little things you can add to them to just know, make sure that they know that they're doing the right thing. Keep her on this side. Just, it's a little bit off. It's a little bit different, but they can do it. Centers pass through. Touch 1/4. Scoot back. Go, girls. Girls fold. Everybody double pass through. Face to the right. Men circulate. Ferris wheel. Looking good. Center square through. 3. Alamana left. Come back, promenade about 4 steps. 5 or 6 if you have little bitty legs.
Now, let me throw this in, and again, I'm really become sensitive toward our newer dancers because that's what not retaining them is what has hurt us so badly. And I'm sure a good many of us, we go to teach classes, we look at our lesson plan, so all right, we're teaching this figure, this figure, this figure, this figure. I don't really have to draw up a program. I know how to dance all those, and I know how to call all those, so I don't have to write anything down. And I think we're doing a disservice to our class that we're trying to teach. I think we take for granted that we're a lot smarter than what we are. Now, like that one little thing I did a while ago, when they screw you to the ground or whatever, but if you know what your beginners are dancing, come up with some little something like that. Take the time to write something out. Say, this will work good for them, and it flows okay, and they can do this, and they can win. And take the time to do that. They're paying you to teach, so why don't you go earn it? You know, and take the time to learn this stuff and figure out what you can do and spend some time in getting ready for that beginner class. And in my opinion, this is one of the things that we take ourselves for granted. We take our teaching ability for granted, and it's not always there.
Well, most of you know. How many of you teach new dancers here? All right.
I love it.
I love it. I love it. The bottom line is all of us have gotten to that point where it's, the amount of retention, the amount you're going to teach that night has hit the saturation level. There's a little bit of frustration out on the floor. Boy, that's the time to stop and put the wind in their face. Call what they know and let them dance. Whether it's just stopping that patter call and put on a singing call and call those figures that they can be successful at and let them dance. Same thing with an open dance. You're going to play around a little bit. You might work them with a tip with a certain concept. And the next time, turn around and put the wind in their face. Call something smooth. Call something that flows. Let them win. Let them move. Let them move from one side of the square to the other side. Watch their clockwise and their counterclockwise turns. The bottom line is that you can use different kinds of choreography to add to their enjoyment, but always remember they're here to dance. You want to put the wind in their face and keep going.
One of the young callers I was talking to in Houston the other day, and I said, you need to just that, put the wind in their face. They're new. They're big. He said, well, all they can do is Ladies Chain. I said, okay, then all you call is Ladies Chain. So, all right, no big deal. For example, and it's no biggie. I always like to put this on, and I tell the new dancers, I said, now, this song is not indicative of the level of this tip. All right, just know ahead of time. That don't mean it's going to be hard. But you start like head, ladies, chain them home. Side, ladies, chain them home.
Give that one beat.
4 ladies, chain.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Chain them home.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8 to the middle and I come back out. Alabama left that corner. And a right a left grand. Now, you may be bored senseless, but they think they just conquered the world. They all won. Promenade a lady home. And that's what it's all about. If all they can do is 4 ladies chain, then all you call is 4 ladies. They will call as well as you teach. I mean, they'll dance as well as you teach. But it amazes me, and we teach something, then we get bored, so we call something they can't do. Or we think, I'm going to teach them this on the fly. I don't think so. Now, that's great if your dancer's been dancing 20 years, but when they're dancing maybe 20 hours, it's just hard to do that.
Hey, let's open it up. Would anybody else like to work with the square a little bit or show an example of something that hits home with them? John, do you have anything to add? John's done this session a number of times. I don't know if you could. Chuck, how about yourself? No? Charlie just brought up the point. Diagonal chains. Yeah, exactly. 1 face 2 and 3 face 4. Ladies chain. Yeah, exactly. 1 and 2, ladies chain. 3 and 4, ladies chain. All 4 ladies chain. Exactly right. Good. Heads past the ocean. Extend. Swing through. Boy trade. Boy run. Couples circulate. Do a Ferris wheel. Center forward, do a right and left through. Everybody double pass through. The lead's clover leaf. The trailer's partner trade. Give yourself a nice hand. All right. Good deal.
The point behind this whole thing is that none of this will happen if you don't practice your craft. It just won't happen, all right? You've got to practice your timing. You can learn your timing chart, but you're going to really hone it to a fine edge by working with live bodies, okay? And on the body flow, it's really simple. If it hurts, it's wrong. If you got to go, it's wrong. All right, so just don't call. It just gripes me, like Mike said a while ago. I've seen far too many really good callers have head square through 4 and single circle to a wave. Drives me up a gourd. Which hand is free on single circle? None. So anyway, but little things like that. And the point I've said, I don't want anybody to be perfect. Perfect is boring, okay? But you need to be able to call perfect so you can have them dance imperfect. I came up with the perfect definition of the perfect dancer the other day. I finally did. After all the years we've gone through trying to workshop and teach them, perfect dancer smiles through the whole dance, ends up in the same room they started. That's close enough. It's just close enough, man. Let them win.
Bottom line. That's the bottom line. Anybody else have a comment? Yes, Ron, why don't you come up and Chuck will give you the mic. Ron, you need the square? No, but let's give these guys a nice
Hey,
round of applause.
thanks, guys.
Thank you,
We appreciate it.
Really,
Thank you
very
all so much.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, is it on? The Duke?
Ron
There it
Marcus.
is. Okay. Ron Marcus for Tucson, Arizona. I just wanted one thing you commented on just very briefly is it's very important as callers teaching dancers to teach the smoothness and the wind in your face type of thing, the anticipation that's required for the non-active dancer in a call like a right and left through with a ladies chain. You did several of them there. Everybody up there knows how to dance. They've been dancing for a while. I've been calling this throwing this into the category of dancer responsibility. We'll teach them how to dance. We also need to teach them how to anticipate their part of a call where they're not active immediately. On like on a four ladies chain, I tell the guys, now don't be surprised. She's coming to you. Don't be, oh, golly, here comes this girl. What am I going to do with her now? Well, you know you're going to get her. So be ready for her. Step aside. Be ready for that courtesy turn. And that enhances this dancer smoothness and wind in your face type of thing. It needs to be taught. It is in classes. Yeah.
It is absolutely true. When you're teaching something as simple as ladies chain, have the guys put their left hand up. They're just standing there anyway. So have them put their left hand up. Give them the landing pad. She's coming. Smile at her. You know who. Sometimes in the heat of passion, as they're turning, she's not quite sure who she's even going to. She may be, but if she's not, you're out there looking for her. Help her out. Make that eye contact as she's coming around. Put your hand out there, and that makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, one of the best I've seen at that is Randy Doherty. He teaches beginners, and he starts very off because he refers to as your home position as your ready position, and then he teaches you ready for what. All right? You're in your ready position. Your motor is always running. It's like driving down the freeway. If you close your eyes, you're going to hit somebody. So keep your eyes open and be ready for everything that's going to happen. And I've noticed that's very effective. All right? And you stand in that ready position and be ready for whatever. You stand there like a lump and somebody's going to run over you.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. If you're back on your heels, for instance, if you're up on your toes and you're kind of moving forward and you're just about ready.
Tom Sellner from Maryland. You've sort of been saying what I'm going to say. When you teach your dancers, we're too busy teaching the figures. We forget that we have to teach them where is the corner. Where is your partner after that element left sometimes? There is where we lose the wind in the face so many times. The corner, where's my partner? Where are they? And we see that stop. So what we want to do is we want to teach wind in the face to the dancers. In fact, if we teach and we call because they're beginners, right and left through, now do your ladies chain. If we teach like that, then we're encouraging no wind in the face. And I see it all the time. You see people workshopping, and that's what they do. They take the wind in the face away. We need to put it in the very beginning. The first night of dance, first nighter, wind in the face needs to be there.
Stop and start.
Absolutely. And this is why I go back to what I said a while ago. You must not only know where it starts, how to do it, but where it ends. And if you know where it ends, you can give them advance warning of the next call before they actually get to that point, and it allows them to continue moving and continue dancing.
Roy?
Yeah, Roy Stevenson, California. Wade mentioned that the last couple of years when he's been teaching the beginners that he's been bringing them up to speed. I do that. I start very first night. In fact, when the club goes to hire me, I'll tell them very first night I teach the class up to dance speed right from day one. I get them moving. The other thing about you're having the inactive dancers or the dancers that aren't doing something right now, Mike, you're talking about shuffling your feet and gliding. I tell them, keep your feet moving. Even if you're not moving forward or sideways, keep your feet moving with the music. And that keeps them ready to go. It keeps them active with the music, and it keeps them ready to go on. And I usually just have the boys all on the ladies' chain. When I teach it, I have the girls go in with their right hand, boys slide over to where she left, and stick out your left hand. So they're moving and they're ready.
So Roy, you're teaching the ready position for the guys. Exactly.
Right.
Now
but the other thing is I want them to keep their feet moving, even if they're in the same place. The marking time in the same place.
Keep your motor running.
Right.
Yep. There's one of the things, and it helps me, and you might consider it, but on dance night number 1, beginners, all right? One of the things I've found is that even if you have your beginners or anybody else dancing to the beat of the music, not everyone takes the same size step. All right, depends on what kind of dancing you've done in the past, if any at all. Or you've got some of these guys who have worked in the farmers' fields for all their whole life, hard-working, good old boys, never set foot on a dance floor in their life. And so you're trying to teach them to dance. So what I do is I have them circle left. And I said, if on that 16 beat, if you're not standing at home, you're moving too slow. If you got there before 16, you're moving your feet, your steps are too large. And we literally practice circling left, circling right, circle left. On the 8th step, you need to be right directly across. That's the size step you need to take throughout the whole thing. And because you not only do a figure, but you need to go from point A to point B in X number of steps. And if your steps are only 4 inches long, you ain't going to get there. All right. And then you got the guys that can do a cast 3/4 in one step. They're 6'9" and go, over here. You got to shorten those guys down a little bit. But there is a proper length. It's 16 to 18 inches long, but they got to feel that. And so I make them circle and count. And I literally have them count 1, 2, 3, 4 till I get to 16, and that's where they need to be. So it works for me, whatever works.
Good idea. Good idea.
So, Stephanie Langhoff from California. Timing is an issue for me. And on a call like Follow Your Neighbor and Spread, usually do the spread to get people back in right-hand waves. When do you say the spread? I mean, do you say it right up front so people know they're going to do the spread, or do you kind of try to time the spread with, as the dancers are about the spread?
Everybody has their own opinion. I have mine. And I teach, on that particular call, for example, I teach Follow Your Neighbor as an extend. And so if you do it, say for what we teach it mostly from, which is a head square through 4 and touch a quarter, where you got the boys in, the girls out, which is, I guess, what we consider a standard position. I teach the call extend and tell the gals who are facing out or whoever is facing out that they're going to start to do a little 3/4 turn following that neighbor that left them in place. And by the time they turn the first quarter, if the caller's timing is good, he will have said spread so that they know to do a little tiny cloverleaf. If he waits this, follow your neighbor. Oh yeah, spread. That's it's really awkward. So in my opinion, when you extend and before you make that first turn to the right, the caller should have said spread. That's my opinion. Otherwise it becomes a stop, slide, sideways move, which correct is not always right. And that's one of them that's correct, but it's wrong because the flow is bad. That's only my opinion.
And absolutely, what's the next call, and how can you cue them into the next call? Because once before they hit that wave, that next call ought to be there. They ought to know, girls get ready and fan the top, or ladies trade, or make that call a little bit ahead of time so they come back into that wave anticipating what the next movement's going to be.
Well, the good point. Now, he said if the next call is fan the top. If she's doing a loop and coming in toward each other with that left hand, fan the top's a breeze. If she's going sideways, there's no body motion, and it's going to make fan the top difficult. And so I've found that most of the time when dancers break down, it's not the call they're doing the break on. It's the position they left themselves in with the preceding call. If they left themselves out of position, it's like basketball. You're going to miss the shot, baby. You got to be into position in order to do the next one.
Elmer Claycomb from Prescott Valley, Arizona. One of the things that we see, and I'm going to kind of ask you to think about this, you see dances that the dancers end up just disappearing from the dance. And gradually, towards the end of the dance, there's only 1 or 2 sets still dancing. A couple of years ago, I started trying to see, as I was going to other dances, and sometimes this is festivals, what is the commonality that keeps that floor full to the end of the dance, and people don't even realize it's the end of the dance. Not just my opinion, but from really looking at it, it's the wind in your face dance is the one people stay there. They are dancing, they feel good, they're not tired, and boy, when it gets down to the choreography at stop and go, it just flat wears them out, and they're ready to go. They're off at the restaurant drinking coffee with their friends during the last tip.
Your dance has got to be better than a piece of pie and a cup of coffee. And the only way you're going to do that is let them win and keep the wind in their face. Simple as that.
Absolutely. Any other comments, questions? A couple of resources that there's not a lot written on smooth dancing. Put the wind in your face. Jim Mayo wrote a couple really neat books back in the 70s on timing and on smoothness in square dancing. There was also an old book that Will Orlick wrote on how to be a smooth dancer. There's a few do's and don'ts and that kind of thing in there. In the caller text, there's just chapters on smooth dancing and body flow. Jim Mayo wrote one. Bill Peters has an article in here. Lee Helsel has an article. Bob Osgood. There's some great articles on smoothness and body flow and dancing. And I believe that John, I believe you got an article in there too. John Collenthaler. So we've got some great articles in the caller text. If you don't own that, that's just a great reference to have in your library. There's some great information and great articles in there. Yes, Buddy?
Yeah, Buddy Weaver. You guys did an excellent presentation, and it certainly is apparent that this is not something that any one of these callers could get up and try to do on the fly. So would you share with us how much homework would be involved in this, and so that the callers can get a firm grasp of what they should do?
Thank you.
Be as successful as you are at this.
Well, I was something about touching that. These articles that Mike just mentioned are not going to help you a lot if you don't read them. Okay? And I'm just serious about that. Because so often CALLERLAB has provided just tomes of material that goes unread. At least it appears to me it goes unread. Now, in addition to that, if you're going to do a dance, and I've been calling for a while, and I won't promise I sit and write it down every time, but if you have to do it enough times, you can kind of create it in your head. But I promise you, before I walk in the door, whether it's a beginner class or a plus dance or a mainstream, I don't care what it is. I may not know the whole thing in my mind, but I guarantee you I know almost to a gnat's behind what I'm going to say for the first 3 tips. Because I want to go establish my dance. Now, I may come adjusting after that, whatever. But if you're going to do some wind in your face, if you're going to do like 4 tips, I always do some little cutesy thing or whatever. And I need to know that in advance, how I'm going to do it. Then I get to look at my floor and say, well, they can't handle that, so I guess I'll adjust it and I'm going to do over this. But so it's a combination of the whole thing. But to hit Buddy's point, yeah, a lot of homework goes into this thing. You know, I do a lot of it in my head now that I didn't used to, but I have a program sheet that particularly when I was in Houston, I was calling the same, well, even more so in Mesa. When you see the same dancers 4 to 5 times a week, you better get your stuff together, Ace. Because they not only memorize it, they write it down, half of them tape it, go and listen to it. Listen to this. He called that same thing last week. I mean, then they come up and say, well, you ain't coming to my house tonight for coffee, you know. I mean, they get testy, all right. So you need to do your homework and think, okay. And so I kept a file. And last week, these are the singing calls I did. And the only time I repeat next week, if somebody is kind enough and make a request. Somebody says, do you always do requests? I said, I just scared to death they'll stop asking. You know, if somebody asks and if it's in my bag, because I got to tell you what, there's not many. Where's Ernie Kenny? He's not here, is he? Good. There's not many songs in life I hate more than El Paso City. I got to tell you what, I've done that song 700,000 times. Oh, you own it now. I can't tell you how many times I've done it now. And they came up and said, will you do El Paso? And I said, oh, sure. And I, just hate it. But if they ask, man, they pay the tab. You do what you got. But you got to work. You got to read this stuff. You got to plan. And basically, you've got to work on improving your craft daily. And if you don't, you're not earning your keep, man. That's my opinion.
You know, my opinion is to start out with a piece that's well phrased. You got a piece of music that gives a solid 8 count. Hit your space bar on it. There's a pattern call that's been around. That's not the one I was looking for. Although that'll work, but I'm looking for such a something well phrased. Okay, all right. But something that's well phrased, something that's got a good 8 count that you can give the dancers the 1 count. Start out with a really simple choreography that just keeps dancers moving. Forward and east, chain 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, chain them on back, and then you don't need dancers that's in your head. Join hands, circle left, circle to the left, go around the ring. Do an element of left, come back in a right or left, grand, go. Hand over hand, think about it. Just keep them moving around. You can see it in your brain as you're driving down the freeway, practicing. Promenade back home, take a little walk back home, you do, and then heads, you go up to the middle and you come on back and do the right or left through. Girl, lead, flutter, wheel. Although this is not as well phrased as I'd like to see, there's Ding Dong. We're up on Love Boat. All right. I mean, this came out as a singing call. Makes a great pattern. Four ladies chain across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Chain them on back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Join hands, circle left. 2, 3. Bend star by the right. 2, 3, 4, 5. Alabama left that corner, girl. And around on it grand. So you take a piece of music that you know that the dancers can just kind of cruise right along with and move right along with. The bottom line is give them that one beat. Anytime you can give them that one beat. Not always on a pattern, can you? But you can definitely give them a one beat.
Let me just do this. Because here's one I use for beginners more than anything, and it works like a charm. Because they can't miss the step. If they can't put the foot down on that one, they need to take up bowling, man. And it just works. And you can just cue. You can talk through them. Nothing gets in your way. And they just kind of float. I don't know how do you guys use 2 times, but it's just that kind of stuff. And particularly if you're going to start off the night, don't let your music get in your way. Which one?
2 times.
2 times.
2 times. Romney, who does that song? Anna Lee?
Yeah. Now, there's all sorts of things, and I encourage you to vary your music not only by what's the latest thing out, but by its style. For example, here's one that's, Are You the One? This is, I love jazz. I ain't found a jazz hoedown. Catch this. It's just a little same old. It's the same speed and the same 2/4 rhythm, but it gives you a different feel. Now, I don't know about you guys, but there's enough hoedowns out there. The hardest thing I have to do is going back and doing my favorite hoedown 3 or 4 times a night. I just finally force myself. I will not use it twice. I don't care how bad I want to. I won't. So when I'm going to program a dance in my mind or written, either one, I not only program singing calls, I program the level of the singing calls, the pattern call, the level, all right, that I'm going to work tonight by tip. And I don't know whether people still program with theme tips, but I do. And if there's something I want to work this tip, I want to write it down. Now, I'm not going to write every single little hash break, but if I'm on the first tip, I'm going to do a basic feel out. I'm going to do tags and sweeper quarters and things, find out whether these yo-yos can dance or not, or whether they're just moving up and down in a straight line. And then the second tip, we might just come out and do a few more things. But I just kind of jot them down, and like Saturday night, I said, okay, 4th tip, I've got a little thing here that again fits into a theme right here. Okay, and I'm going to say, here's what we're going to do. I love it. As a good friend of mine in Tokyo did this music, and it's great. And I thought, wait a minute. If we're going to use Japanese music, let's use a Japanese song. Figures. So I taught Aso and Wahoo. Guaranteed when they leave, I want you to promise you'll forget it. I don't want you ever dance again, but for right now, we're going to dance it. So we use Yagebushi, and we put the thing. It's cutesy, in, out, and you're gone. They already know how, because we do a little spiel about the girls. They're always being bossy. But fellas, look at your right hand. Don't let her go under pain of death. I don't care what happens. Don't let her go. The boys, you go ahead and recycle and just drag her. That's an aso. It may not be a proper teaching. Copman probably just come back and hit me on the head. Yeah. I don't care. I'm going to do a 5-minute teaching, in and out, and I'm gone. But I knew before I ever walked in the hall that that's what I was going to do, tip 4. And if you don't devote that much time to reading material, doing your program, doing your homework, you're not going to be very good.
Thank you. We want to thank all of you for coming out and joining us this afternoon. It is break time. Thank you. If you need any information, touch base with us. We'll be here.